Welcome to part 6 of this series, the Roman Empire and the Holy Land. In this video we're going to be looking at another son of Japheth called Tyrus. Now the picture we're looking at is a fresco from the Minoan civilization, and some scholars connect Tyrus to the Minoans. And that's interesting because if we go to the book of Jubilees, it says for Tyrus there came forth the seventh portion, 4 great islands in the midst of the sea, which reached to the portion of Ham. And when I was looking at this 1554 map of Africa, I noticed we have these 4 great islands in the Mediterranean, and they seem to approach the territory of Ham. So I was wondering whether those could be the 4 islands that the book of Jubilees is speaking about. And that's interesting then how some scholars connect Tyrus to the Minoan civilization of Crete. So that's one connection for Tyrus with the Minoans, but we have another connection with the sea peoples. We have this very mysterious confederation known as the Sea Peoples. They tried to invade Egypt, and this picture might be depicting that battle with the Pharaoh defeating the Sea Peoples. And if we go to the page on the Sea Peoples, it tells us some of these tribes of this confederation. And this one here is quite interesting, the Tiras. And they've been connected to the Tyrrhenians, to the Trojans, to Troy, Tarusa, to the tribe of Tyrus, to Tarshish, and to the Taurus Mountains. But it's the connection to Tyrus that we're going to be speaking about, and the Tyrrhenians. Now in the book of Jubilees, on the footnotes, it does say that there's the potential connection of Tyrus to the Tursanoi, and this is one of these tribes of the sea peoples that we're speaking about. Let me show you the region. So we have a sea known as the Tyrrhenian Sea, and this could be where the origin of the sea peoples were, because we see some of these tribes being connected to the Sardinians and to the Sicels. So that would be Sardinia and Sicily. And now we also have this connection to the Tursanoi, or Tarusa, or Tyrus, or the Trojans. So on my map I've got Tyrus spread across the Mediterranean with those 4 islands that we spoke about. But I've noticed that some scholars who study Jubilees, they put Tyrus more just in this region here with the Tyrrhenian Sea, and maybe these islands here could be what Jubilees is speaking about. So it's interesting because of this close proximity with the Tyrrhenians, or the Tursanoi, and with Rome, because that's what we're building up to, is speaking about the founding of Rome. And the Tursanoi, or the Tyrrhenians, it says here that the Greeks called them always the Etruscans. So the Etruscan civilization in Italy, if we go to the map, we can see the Etruscans to the north of the Romans. So we're kind of building up now to try speak about the founding of Rome. So that's something we have to think about, is the Etruscans and their connection to the Tursanoi, and the Tursanoi potentially being connected to Tyrus and the Trojans. And this page I noticed just supports this with its connection with Troy, Tarusa, and the Etruscans. It says, if we go to the summary, the thesis of this paper then is that Tros, or Troya, or Tarusa, or the Tursanoi, and Tyrus are all related. So we see this connection with Tyrus. The Hittites, they referred to Troy as Tarusa, so that could be with this connection with Tyrus, with this word Tarusa. So this is something to think about for the Romans, because we're going to start speaking about the founding of Rome. So we try to think about this potential connection with the Trojans, and with Tyrus, and with the Etruscans. But I'd like to now just share something with you that we covered in the first series with Tyrus, and it was this tradition of this Persian historian Al-Tabari, who recounts the tradition that Tyrus had a son named Batuil, whose daughters Carnabil, Bakht, and Arsal became the wives of Cush, Put, and Canaan. So this was a very interesting tradition of having a connection with Tyrus and Cush, Tyrus and Put, so Tyrus in Libya, and Tyrus and Canaan. And the one we focused on the first series the most was Tyrus and Cush. If we go to that one, so the same historian speaking about this tradition, but it's saying that this union of Cush and Tyrus, that the Abyssinians and the Sindhis and the Indians, they come from this union of Cush and Tyrus. So I wanted to share this because this can help maybe help with our understanding of this region and the perspective. So remember how we were looking at East Africa, and we were seeing that East Africa, sometimes being called India with the Greek and Roman sources, but now we can maybe understand have a better understanding why we have this connection with India and Ethiopia when we see this this tradition that Indians and Abyssinians coming from Kush. So that's very interesting, and that could be important when we also speak about the founding of Rome, because we spoke about the religion, how the religion of this part of the world influencing the Greek and the Romans. Now we're going to also see how this region could also influence the founding of Rome. That's what we're going to be speaking about in the next video. Now I also noticed with this paper that there's a connection with the Hittites and the Etruscans. So this one's interesting. If we go back, when we think about this tradition, that Tyrus is also connected with Canaan. So that's what makes me wonder about the Hittites, because we've seen Tyrus connected to the Etruscans with the sea peoples, and now we're also seeing this potential connection with the Hittites and the Etruscans. So that made me wonder about the Hittites, whether they could be connected with Tyrus. And I want to just look at a few interesting things from this page. There was this interesting connection. Remember we did that video, the Hittites in Africa, and that scholar was connecting the Hittites to the Hottentots, not only with appearance but with language. And this paper also supports that, because it's speaking about the Hittites having a Turanian appearance. But then it says here, in fact, their Turanian appearance is as surprising as is that of the Hottentots, or the Khoi. So this is very interesting how they're saying that the Hottentots have a similar appearance to the Hittites, but then also to the Etruscans, which is a civilization in Italy. And it also speaks about, remember that scholar also spoke about the language. He said there could also be a way to investigate this further with the language of the Khoi or the Hottentots, how it was connected to North Africa with the Berbers, and maybe Indo-European or Indo-Aryan. So I just wanted to show you this that I came across looking at this page on the Indo-European languages. And it says here that this scholar studying these different language groups, he was studying Slavic, Baltic, Iranian, Finnish, Chinese, and Hottentot. So I thought that was very interesting that he's studying these Indo-European languages, and he's considering and studying Hottentot, just to show that what that scholar was speaking about in that paper with the Hittites in Africa, and he was saying that the language could be something to look at. And I said that I also saw something with that in regards to that. So yeah, just wanted to also speak about the Khoi or the Hottentots, because remember how I said that it's very it's interesting that they're very isolated in this region. How did they become so isolated? Because the people surrounding them, the Bantu, are different people with a different language family. So how do we explain the Hottentots or the Khoi? And his explanation was tying them to the Hittites. And that's interesting, because we've got to think about what we're saying in this series about the Holy Land. Remember how we said about Canaan was supposed to be inhabiting West Africa according to the Book of Jubilees, and we had that arrow pointing to the south, because we're saying could the Holy Land be in sub-Saharan Africa? But then if you've got Canaan pointing to the south, you need to look for evidence to support that, for Canaan being in this region. So that's why we did that video, Hittites in Africa, and this connection with the Hottentot and the Khoi. And I want to show you something else that I came across which was interesting on this page, because it also goes on to say, to the Etruscans, they regarded red apparently as a propitious color. So did the Egyptians, who are represented red on their monuments as the Hottentots also to the present day paint themselves red. So now we have another connection with the culture or the religion, this connection with the Hottentots and the Etruscans and the Hittites, with this, with regarding red as important. And then I also saw, to kind of make it very interesting to bring these things together, is with Herodotus. Herodotus was describing tribes in Libya, and he's speaking about this tribe known as the Maxiyes, and it says they wear their hair long on the right side of their heads and shave the left, and they paint their bodies with vermilion, so it's like a red dye. These claim descent from the men who came from Troy. So that's very interesting that we have this account from Herodotus with Trojans living in Libya. And remember how we're trying to put this together. We're speaking about this connection with Tyrus and Troy, and Tyrus to the Etruscans and the sea peoples. And now we're seeing on this paper the connection with the Hittites and the Trojans as well. So it's very interesting how we have these connections with the Trojans and smearing their bodies with vermilion, and the Etruscans also doing that. But also notice how he says that the Hottentots also practice this custom. So it's very interesting how we're having these different things support the information. So not only language and appearance, but also, if we can say, culture or religion, connecting these different peoples. So the Hittites, the Etruscans, the Trojans, and the Hottentots. And it all could be important thinking about, obviously where is the Holy Land, but also now as we start moving towards speaking about the founding of Rome. So hopefully all these things that we've been looking at and this foundation we've been working on in these videos is going to help now when we think about with the founding of Rome, because it seems like there's an outside foreign influence, to this Roman civilization or this founding of Rome, and that's what we're going to speak about in the next video. So I hope you found this video interesting on Tyrus. There's definitely lots of different connections with Tyrus, lots of very interesting things. So thank you for watching this one, and we'll see you in the next video.